Hey guys, it's Alloy, and I want to take time today to talk about option writing and how it can improve your risk management strategy when things get rough or when you want to keep a neutral or long position on a stock, but there's some intermediate bearishness that you want to make it out alive from. So let's talk a little bit about what we see here on my portfolio. We have all these options on the side. We have some writes and some buys. We have 5 buys for Palantir, but everything else is me selling contracts. Now this video will assume that you don't know a lot about contract writing, so I'm going to go ahead and explain some of what you're seeing here and how, at least in Robinhood, it appears. If you're using TD Ameritrade or Fidelity or E-Trade or something else, then it might appear different, but the overall mathematics will be the same. The way it works with relation to stock movement will still be the same, and most likely what you can do depending on your country. Okay, so without going too much into the formalities of it like I was about to, why don't we talk about what we're seeing here? So we have 2 cells of Plug, 1 cell of Lemonade, and these other ones. We're just going to talk about these 2 because they're contrasting each other and they make a great point. So we have a green indicator here with a negative symbol, which is sort of counterintuitive, and then we have a red indicator here with a plus sign symbol. Again, kind of counterintuitive. So why don't we break these down and exactly what they mean? Well, before we do that, keep these 2 in mind, and we're going to look at their underlying. Let's look at Plug. So if we look at Plug and its trajectory, the first thing that comes to mind is wow. And the second thing that comes to mind is, should I sell? Now, for most people, I don't want to speak for everybody, I don't want to sell. And a lot of people aren't going to want to sell because they're long. But it is fairly high, right? IV is high, meaning implied volatility, which roughly translates to people's expectations about price movement and how that shifts over time with relation to that price's movement. So if it's basically a derivative of the expectations people have over time and when a stock moves in a certain direction is IV. It typically goes up when a stock trends too far into one direction. Too far can depend on a lot of technical factors that I'm not going to get into. But suffice to say, 133% in the past month borders on that too good to be true territory that I like to reference, because this stuff, to reduce your risk, you have to decide when you're going to sell or how you're going to hedge that risk you're introducing by keeping it. I'm choosing to keep it. So that's when our counterintuitive indicators come in. So let's look at Plug and the calls that I wrote. Call writing is different than call buying. When you write a call, you are selling that risk and that opportunity to somebody else. So the reason why I say risk or opportunity is because depending on how you look at it, it could be either. Maybe to you, like I've just illustrated with Plug. For me, I feel like I have very little headroom, very little upside left, but I want to keep it because I believe in the fundamentals of the company and how it relates to our economy and the future. Like I believe in electric vehicles and solar charging and stuff like that. So what do? I sell that risk to somebody else. Oh, well, if somebody else still thinks it's going to continue going up, well, then I'm happy to sell that risk to them. But what does that mean for me? Let's look at some of the options here and switch to sell. Again, it's going to look different in your broker if you're not using Robinhood. And of course, I'm on the desktop version, but there are a lot of similarities. Okay, so we have a share price of 61.07 right now, or you could just say 61 thereabouts. And I wrote 2 at 65. What does this mean? This means if the share price goes up to 65 and over by January 15th, I have to sell 2 positions, 200 shares, or 2 commitments to whoever bought and holds those contracts currently. So on Friday, if it is at 65, I have to sell my shares. Now, why would that be a bad thing for me? Well, it's a bad thing for me because I want to keep my shares. I don't want to sell them. So that would be rough. But in a way, it also protects me from that risk if I have to sell them. Well, I can't complain that I made profit, can I? Right? So that's pretty nifty too. this is a great way to minimize risk, because if it goes to January 15th, i.e. if the world lasts that long and we don't see 65 for plug, then you pocket this premium that you wrote them for. So we go back, I sold them for $98 each. So I make $194 or $96 if I keep these, or someone keeps these until the 15th and we do not see plug hit 65. Those are the rules. Now, you can write longer term calls, longer term contracts with greater premium values if you would like. It doesn't make a tremendous difference in terms of the math and how risk works out. It's really more about your personal belief in that company, your position. Do you want to hold it for a long time or not? Because when you have a contract written, by the way, when you've done this, I have to hold my shares until the 15th. There's some tricky reasoning mathematically why that is, but basically if I were to sell my collateral, the 200 shares I may owe somebody before we know the results, then I might owe them 200 shares I couldn't even afford at that date. Because what if it goes up $100? Unlikely, but what if it does? Now I've got to fork out for 200 shares that are now $100 more expensive than when I got them. So that is called infinite loss measures. That is a way you could lose infinite money in the stock market. But I wish I didn't even have to say that, because really Robinhood and other brokers will protect you from making that mistake, actually. So you don't need to concern yourself with that. It's just a little bit of deeper info that explains some of how this works and how these contracts lose and gain their value, right? So that is it in a nutshell. Why don't we look at Lemonade and why I'm making money on this one? So 200 call, and it also expires on the 15th. And I did this again because Lemonade was a little bit frothy, a little bubbly. You know, it's going down. These are highs that we have not yet seen before, so it's uncharted territory. Whatever trendsetters think they have an idea of what's happening, they're really just guessing. So as happy as I would be if Lemonade keeps going up, I have to hedge my risk. I have to assume it's going down. I can't get emotional. So I wrote a call and I'm making money. It has lost a lot of value. And as a result of that, I have made a lot of value on it. The total return on the contract is 52 because similar to how Plug is interacting with my portfolio today, this was actually up yesterday for the person who held it. Today, Palantir has gone down a little bit, plus Theta, as in time passing, has made the contract less valuable as we get nearer and nearer to Friday, the 15th. So, sorry, I said Palantir, I meant Lemonade. Clearly got Palantir on the mind though. So that's how these contracts work. Now, how can I make sure that this Plug one turns out that like this Lemonade one and that premium ends up in my pocket, i.e. I don't have to sell my shares? There's no answer to that. I'm at the mercy of the market now, just like any other option circumstance, except I can buy myself out of this. Now, what does that mean? That means whatever movement it's gone up by, as in I have lost $216 because the person who bought these from me bought them at 98 each. They're 207 now. So they made money by me writing these, and I'm losing money until the 15th when we know what really happened, what the verdict is. We're at 61. Will it be 65 or over by Friday? We will see. That will determine my success or my failure, right? So how do we get out of this? Buy the same contracts that you just wrote. So if I wrote two, buy them at the new price, 209. Yes, you lose a little bit of money doing this, bailing yourself out, because it's literally bailing yourself out. You're like, oh, I wish I didn't write these. I think they're going to get assigned. I don't want to sell if that happens. In fact, good for the guy who bought them from me. He made money. She made money. But I need to get out of the situation. They can keep their profit. I'm just going to buy myself out. So you buy two Plug calls, same date, same strike for 208 or whatever the price is, and then you're good. I could do that right now. I'm more on the dangerous side, and if Plug hit 65, I still think, and I had to sell, right? I still think it would go down, and then I would be able to buy again. So there's always another time. No need to stress out about it. And in fact, to elaborate on what this means for you day to day, is it's a very low stress way to hedge all this fantastic market gain you've been doing. Because here's the thing, look at 1 week, 20 grand 1 week. Look at 1 month, 20 grand past month, and that's because I'm hedging. The week and the month are the same. Isn't that weird? Only a $500 difference. It's because I'm hedging. Really, you could look at it one way or another. You could look at it, I made 20 grand in 1 month, or you could look or 1 week rather. That's the braggadocious perspective, right? 20 grand 1 week, wow. Or you could be a little more honest and say, all right, I made 20 grand in 1 month because there were some dips that I had to hedge. And if I didn't hedge, I would not be at where I am today. So these dips that happen, you can make sure that you get a little bit something for it. You know, on the 29th, it came back a little bit, and you handle it, you glide with it, and you ride the wave. That's how you do it. So this is that's a little bit of just the longer term, what call writing does for you over time. You're not gonna feel these things immediately, and you can see I don't have very many written given my positions, because I don't need to for everything. It's just really managing risk where you see it. Okay, so I hope that was helpful, and probably a little bit in depth at times, but in some ways probably more complicated than what a lot of traders were used to when they think of contracts or when they clicked on this video. But it's very powerful. It pays for itself. It reduces your risk. You win no matter what, and so I really recommend it. The most important thing is that you find out which equity you don't mind holding, because it's 100 shares of collateral required for baseline, right? That's just to begin writing, is you need 100 shares of something. So decide what that's going to be, what you believe in, what you're going to be long-term, relatively long-term on. And yeah, one last aside is, when this money is pocketed, when this premium is drained into your wallet instead of the person who paid for it, use that money to buy calls if you want. It's house money. It just depends on when you did it, at what time, and how the market is going after they've expired. If the market goes right up after that, feel free to buy some calls while you're riding that wave. Rinse and repeat, as we like to say at Digits. So hope this was helpful, guys. Have a good one, and I'll see you next time.